Yes, this is an important work stream for us. Not not just because it's being led by one of our adopters, who has been doing some active development in the Mojaloop ecosystem, but also because multiple adopters had come to us and said that one of their barriers to adopting Mojaloop was that we weren't able to provide a dispute management solution. And I was, and we called for volunteers to lead a work stream on this. And I'm very pleased to say that Pramesh stepped up, and I'm very grateful to him for that. I know that we've also had interest from Kenya and IPSL to contribute to this work stream, but that will be during the next PI. Up till now, Pramesh has been leading this all on his own. Um, the outputs of this work stream will be a dispute management platform. We don't have it yet. From us, we'll give you an update. But it's important to emphasize that it doesn't actually form part of the Mojaloop core. It's core adjacent, if you like. It's something that we have to have as an offering as part of the Mojaloop platform, but it's not directly integrated into the transaction processing element. Nonetheless, it's a vital element of our future success. On that note, I will just hand over to Pramesh and ask him to give the update on this work stream. So thank you, Pramesh.
Thank you very much, Paul. I think we can proceed from here. Uh, I want this discussion to be more interactive because it's a new work stream in Moduloop, and most people have been talking about this dispute management and stuff. So I just want this conversation to be more interactive, and so that we can first understand even why dispute management is really needed and why should we do it. So I always start by asking these questions because most people really ask themselves this question is like, have you ever, most of the people here have done a transaction and failed. It can fail due to different reasons. We are in a world where we have so many frauds, scams, and everything. But the problem here that I want to ask more is what was your next move after doing that transaction? If you send the money to the wrong beneficiary, if you send money to the wrong number, what's your next move? How is it done? Because this is instant payment. You cannot cancel the transaction mid transfer, which means the transaction is revocable. So how do we handle those stuffs? And these are the things that happened, especially here in Africa, where the market is still new and we want to implement financial inclusion, especially even to the low income, even to the unbanked population. So this is something that we are going to answer together. So in this discussion, it will be more on why dispute management matters, and then we will tell you where we are as a work stream, and then I open the discussion. This is not going to be a long presentation, not even 10 slides. So the reason why we have started working on this dispute management, we have had so many cases where real-time system fell sometimes, and since you are talking about the switch, your system as a switch operator can be very well done, but remember this is a system-to-system communication. Your system might be well, and other people's systems fail, the participants and everyone's. So, and when that is actually done, there's a really big, huge risk that people can lose trust in what you're doing, and then comes the reputation risk and everything. So here I'm actually explaining, especially in the case of mostly our continent where we have still many people unbanked, low income, and the digital literacy is still a thing. It's still a big thing. So you can ask yourself, okay, maybe Moduloop has brought us a very good system. We have different features. We are sure that the system or the transaction are not going to fail. Where does the dispute come from? So in our case, for example, Rwanda and other systems that have tried, even other countries that have tried to ask, a huge percentage of disputes that they have is due to, first of all, fraud. It means the fraud, like someone is doing, it can be either social engineering, they scam people different ways. Remember, like we are still focusing on these people who are low income, like very low digital literacy, and these are the people that we want to include in this system. And how are we going to convince them? Because this, we cannot promise people that this is not going to happen. People will be scammed because the level of their literacy is still low, which still needs to be improved, of course. But then, while we are also trying to improve them and also include them in this financial thing, how are we going to handle all these cases? Because this is something that happens. You cannot go there and promise people that I'm sure the system works well, so nothing is going to happen. That's not the case. Things will always happen. We cannot tell people that social engineering is not going to happen. We cannot tell people that they're not going to get scammed, especially when we are still teaching people things like this. So how are we going actually to handle things when these things happen? So this is actually why dispute management is really a thing that we need to discuss. Now, these things that I'm saying, the most problems that we have faced currently with for domestic payments and transfer, because cross-border payment is not yet a thing. But now imagine on cross-border level, it's a big thing. Someone from Rwanda is sending money to Ghana, and something happens, either wrong number or something like that, fraud, something like that. How are we going to make sure that the both institutions can be able to communicate or like in real time? Because one thing that we need to keep in mind here is that if we have said, if we have preached to people that the payment is happening instantly, it also means that we have to make sure that the users also, even the disputes are also dealt with instantly. So I was reading some reports. I've seen that there was some a very big, huge amount of money that was translated, especially for mobile money users. So in Africa, mobile money is very used because it has actually helped people to use, even the unbanked to use. So there are so many reasons behind that adoption, but 20% of those mobile users have reported issues. And among those issues, a very huge percentage of them is actually the ones that I mentioned. Oh, someone called me and told me to press da 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 da, and then my money went. And then others were scammed in one way or another one, but issues have been reported. And then lack of those addressing all those issues have actually resulted in the 40% of them losing trust in those. Because for me, if I want to pay or if I had money in my pocket and then we preach all digital payments, please, all cashless economy, and then someone decides, okay, let me now open a wallet, and then the next day he's scammed, and the systems, we have not managed well to bring the money back, then how are we going to convince that person to keep using our systems? Because this is very, very delicate to people. It's a very sensitive market, because actually I like to tell people that people who need financial inclusion the most are the one actually that don't have. Because if there are people who needs access to money, they're the one, of course, that don't have money. But they're the ones, of course, that don't have also access to money. So financial inclusion is more needed by people who don't have that money actually, and they are the people who have all those problems. They are the people who are easily scammed. Those are the people that we want to find to include financially. How are we going to deal with those issues? So this is a very big problem. So in our in our dispute for work stream work, we have tried to analyze the problem, and we have come up with some structure. We are reviewing different solutions that we can actually adopt that can help us to fix the problems that we have. And then the next part in our next PI that is coming is actually we are going to start now to work on the real thing. It's either adopting a solution that is being used anywhere else, or it's actually building it from scratch, and you are actually going to participate in this. If you have a solution somewhere, we are from different places that has really worked well, and you say, okay, I've seen somewhere that they have used a very good dispute model and they're really dealing with them very well, you can also let us know of that system, and then we try it and see how it works. But I wanted to explain in a very few words how the one that we have done uh, is structured, and this is similar, like 90% of how it was implemented in Rwanda, and it's V1. When I say it's V1, is that the dispute management that we have designed is actually sitting between, of course, two participants on the switch level, which means it's a participant initiating a dispute against another participant. But then we'll also have time to discuss cross-border, especially where maybe if we arrive at the moment where we have different switches connected to one switch cross-border, how are we going to handle when a transaction goes between more than two participants? Because that happens currently where we have correspondent banks and we have to track where exactly the problem has been, but that will be another story for another day. We have chosen to start with actually the structure where we have one participant here and we have another one here, and we have the switch or the scheme in between, so that people can actually exchange. So the media team can share there's a presentation, a structure. Excuse me, media team. Yeah, there's a PDF. Yeah, you can, yeah, presentation, so that I can explain. It's more on the structure, how we have designed it to be, and how things will be done on a dispute management that we have proposed. And then from there, I will open the floor so that we can discuss, because there are so many answered questions on this dispute platform that we are discussing, and then we need also to see how we can build, because the good thing of this community thing is that if we bring in a solution, and if we bring in a solution or someone brings in a solution, we can actually build from that and then have something that works from everyone. Yeah, if you can zoom in somehow. So this is more on a high level. So yes. So as I have mentioned, this is the one that we have designed is actually sitting between the participant and the two participants and one scheme manager. So this is a switch. It can be a cross-border switch, like in the Comesa example, but it's like this. So we wanted that an initiator, like one DFSP, for example, how in Rwanda it has been done, every participant has a portal where they can initiate a dispute. And then when they initiate a dispute, it can be sent directly to the DFS, to the second participant who is involved in the same transaction. So there are some other rules that can be actually customizable. It can depend on the industry or how people want to do. It's because some people say, okay, we want maybe before that the dispute is gone, we want to have maybe something like a maker checker, but that depends on the industry. But an initiator, one DFSP initiates a dispute against a transaction, and it directly goes to the other party or to the other participant who is involved in a transaction. And then the other side, they check, they review. So the modern dispute management, they even include charts where people can exchange charts, can exchange like evidences, can attach files, everything. And then from there, yes. Can someone? Yes.
Sorry, are you okay with me asking questions as you go? Or
Yeah,
do-
no problem.
Yeah, okay. The flow that's up on the screen there looks great. What I don't see, and it might be me being silly, what I don't see is if DFSP2 declines the dispute,
Mhm.
is there any further flow whereby there might be a counter argument and a to and fro, or is it just decline, that's it, we're done?
No, when actually, as you can see on the, can you because the diagram is big, so this is one part. But
Okay.
when it is declined, yes, can you go on the on down part? Yeah. So when it's declined, actually,
Okay.
what we do, we inform the the initiating party. So there's two possibilities. Either they approve or decline. You can find that the evidence that they have provided, they are true. So you can either close, saying like, okay, I agree with you, or you can escalate to another level of arbitration. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
how it's done.
I
Same
see that.
with
Thank
when
you.
they approve the same flow, they receive a notification and they can check and everything. So yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, that's very clear.
yeah, thank you very much. So and as we have said, we are dealing with instant payments. So we cannot open the flow to the saying like, okay, we are going to give any number of days to the receiving party so that they can react on the dispute or not. So how we have designed the system is when the receiving party receives the disputes, there's a configurable number of days or hours where if they don't react on the dispute, it can be automatically escalated to the next level of arbitration. So we have to make sure that we cannot tell people that, okay, a dispute of an instant payment cannot be dealt with in 7 days or 2 weeks. There will also need to be there some rules that say, okay, if this is not done, then we take it to the other level. So this is actually how it's done. So one party initiates a dispute, and then the other party, they review, they can exchange things, they can do whatever they want, and then the respondent will take a decision and say, okay, we approve or we decline. And then when they decline or approve, the respondent now we have I mean the initiator will have a view where they can say, okay, we are good, they close, or they just escalate. And when they do nothing here, still, as we are dealing with instant payments, we cannot allow any delays in closing disputes. We have also a configurable auto closure. It means like if you don't react to the response from the respondent, we take their decision as a final one and then we close the dispute so that if the money needs to be refunded, then it will be done. So this is a model of just making sure that disputes are also dealt with very quick in instant payments. So this is the first part. So I've not done a very deep research, especially in other countries, to know exactly how many number of levels that they have where the dispute can be done in. But in Rwanda, for example, we have two other levels. So which means we have the scheme manager as maybe R switch in our case, and there's also a regulator after us. So it means that when the initiator decides to escalate automatically, the request now comes to R switch and they go between them, they just help them to fix the issue. They go through the evidences provided. They can even request also evidences through chats on the portal that we have provided. And then after that, they also make a decision. I think there's can you go to the page 2? Yeah, thank you. So same, you can see here on our side is that only the initiator can escalate to us as the scheme manager. So when they escalate, we just also collect our evidences. The operation teams goes through everything. They collect evidences and then they make a decision. They either approve or decline. So when they say approve, it means they're in favor of the one who initiated the payment, I mean the dispute. If they decline, it means they're not in favor of that initiator. It's like they are on their side of the respondent. And then after that decision, now because there was a level of scheme manager, when now here the decision is made, now both the the initiating party and the responding party, they all have the ability now to view what was decision taken by the scheme manager, in our case, R switch, and then they can both be satisfied, or each of them or one of them can actually also decide to take the dispute to another level of the level of arbitration, which is in our case the regulator. So, but when it reaches the regulator, it's the same process, but the only difference on the regulating side is that the decision that they make is final, no escalation or no nothing. So this is how actually we have designed the flow to be, and this is maybe the part that I didn't mention here is especially when it involves, or the dispute involves returning funds, which is even the case for most of the disputes, is that when both, let's say the respondent has approved, yes, we agree to return money, and the initiator closes. It means we have consent for both. One said they approve, another one said the close, which means they are also aligned on that. So, which means we tell, in this case of Moja Loop, how we have planned to do it is that we inform the receiving party to return the funds. And then when they return the funds, it means it will be recorded as a new transaction which relate to the previous one that was done. But currently in Rwanda, how we are doing it is that when we have both consent, what we do is that we take that the dispute amount, we just schedule same as transaction, that how we are doing it now is that we take transaction when transactions are happening, we just wait for the end of the day, and then we generate a file, we send them for settlement. So on dispute also, the ones that we have both consent, the operations team have the access to view them and schedule them for settlement, and then they go on the list, and after the end of the day, it's sent in RIPS central bank for settlement. So that is how it's actually done for now. But this, as I have mentioned, it only involves only two participants. So we have a question now: when the time comes where the transaction is going to be through more than two participants, how are we going to initiate? How are we going to deal with disputes? Because now it will not only be two participants, but more. So that is actually one of the challenges that we have. But this is how we have actually done. So in our work stream, now we have the structure and the version 1 of the dispute management that we need. The next part now that we're working on is now reviewing all the dispute management that we have, systems that we have, so that we can maybe see if we can integrate them, or if it's needed that we build also a new one. So that is actually where we are as our work stream on dispute. Media team, can you go back to the presentation? Back to the presentation. Yes, Bush.
Let me just take a second to try and form the question in my mind properly. So before Mojaloop, the adjustment would be made during settlement. Yeah.
Before Mojaloop?
The refund value would be adjusted during settlement. Is that what I understood?
Yes, before Mojaloop. Currently, how it's done, so which also we still have to improve the system. Currently, on our side, how it's done is actually the whole money is refunded. So
Yeah.
there's no partial refund, something like that. So if both parties agree to refund money, we just schedule a settlement of the same amount that was disputed on.
Okay, I
And then we
understand.
send the
Separate
file.
settlement. Okay,
Yeah.
so you don't record a refund transfer in the switch.
Yes.
Okay, are you planning to use Mojaloop? Now you have the Mojaloop platform. Will you be adjusting that process?
Yeah, we can see, because that's also something that we are actually considering, because also with the partial refund involved in, because currently one of the problems that we have, especially on our operations team, is like, even if I can misredirect my money, let's say 1,000 to your account, while maybe I wanted to send another person, even if the only or maybe that person has consumed like 200, the rest cannot be refunded, because
Okay.
that's, yeah. But that is, so that is why actually on Modular Loop we're trying to improve on this part, so that if we implement it here, it can also be able we can also be able to consume it from Modular Loop.
Yeah, understood. I can think of several mechanisms
Yeah.
that have been discussed. Yeah,
Ye-
I'm really interested to carry on that discussion
ye-
in the coming PI. Thanks.
yeah, thank you very much.
Maybe some sharing on my side on this, because you point out an interesting um, item there. So on our side, for PayNet in Malaysia, we have online refund or online reversal for domestic transaction, but not for cross-border. So in that sense, when you have an online refund, then this refund transaction can be recorded in the report, in the settlement report, so that at the end of the day, then you can just net off the return transaction. But in a sense of for cross-border, because we don't have it, then it's done separately. Now, what I've seen critical when it comes to dispute management, to me, is that you have to take a look at it right from the end state, which is cross-border. Usually, it's where it's most complex, and you build from there. Meaning to say that I was just having this conversation with Promise before this, was that it's quite interesting when it comes to cross-border. You connect one switch to another, one scheme to another, but you don't connect your dispute management portal from one country to another, right? Because country A might have a back office portal that's already connected to all of its domestic participant. Country B has the same thing. Now the switch is talking to each other, but the dispute management is not talking to each other. So that's a critical path to design a dispute management system where you can receive dispute from the other side and also raise dispute to the other side. Now, how you receive and also raise this dispute, our common denominator is the end-to-end transaction. So all of the dispute portal is connected to the database. You know, you only restricted to raise dispute for transaction for the past 30 days, so you don't load the dispute management system so much. So then you just simply raise dispute, you key in the end-to-end transaction, you raise dispute, and then you able to pass it on to the next participant. So that to me is the core principle of how it should work, because the bulk of the issue is passing on all of these dispute cases and also the resolution. But when it comes to the movement of funds, from our side, actually, it's not much of a pain, because to us, you can do the settlement outside of the system and it won't matter anyway. So focus more on how you can make sure raising the dispute and also receiving the dispute, everything is that all that end-to-end process is done through the dispute management portal.
Yeah,
That's a critical path. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And actually, that is also one of the, because how the dispute is now reported is, it means like, if there's a case that someone, let's say, is in a shop in a very in a rural area somewhere, and then that problems occur when he's there, the only way that they can raise the dispute is they will call their participant, their bank, their mobile operator, and those people from those banks, they are the ones now to even go to the dispute management portal, and they initiate that. So there's no way on the side of the end user to also, let's say, raise a dispute or even know the status. And the only and my concern is that these people that actually are very sensitive to the amount of money is the people actually that we want to to include them in the system. When we talk about financial inclusion, is actually making sure that even these people are actually included, and we have seen that when it comes to scams, social engineering, fraud, this is not something that a good retail payment system will prohibit. But what we can now help them is now how can we raise and close disputes in no time, as we are talking, of course, about instant payment. And those questions that say how long can a dispute take to be closed, especially when it's an instant payment, how can it be initiated? And of course, these are the conversation that we are going to have, especially as he was saying, when it comes to cross-border. We meet some problems where we have, of course, we need visibility on both systems. Some of them use ISO, others not. Some of them, things like that. So this is why this is a very crucial work stream that we need to really build something that will work, especially that model now is really into financial inclusion in these countries where even payment is not a thing yet. These disputes will always be there. Yeah. So
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it would have been good to also set the context of where the dispute management that Oswich has also has a way to automate or to auto-create disputes that are identified through the auto-reconciliation steps, right? So you're basically preempting some of the disputes that you already know are going to be disputes because you already have given the various DFSPs a platform from where they already know pretty much that this transaction will create a dispute. So you're basically improving the customer experience without really waiting for them to come to you or to raise the dispute themselves when you actually already have the evidence that Promise was mentioning. So maybe if it's not part of the work stream, maybe that also could be considered because I believe that it's very a powerful tool to also consider and have.
yeah, true. Yeah.
I just want to add on quickly onto that. It is a powerful tool, but also there might be a little bit of a flaw in terms of the dispute categorization, because yes, it's a it's an unreconciled transaction, so maybe that can be the generic issue. But having not a free text dispute categorization would help a lot as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to ask if you could give me a couple of examples of why some transactions might not auto-reconcile, what kind of scenarios might lead to that, just because I don't know.
Yeah, you can also compliment me, but yeah, but there was so many cases, especially on our side, as I've mentioned, as we were starting, there was some for example, on our case that is not live now, we said to participants like, don't credit your beneficiary, your end customer, without receiving an approval from us that we have credited you. So we have to send them pack 002 for them to tell me, okay, now you can credit. But now some of them implemented it, others not. So now let's take in a case of a timeout. That's mostly where it happens. We find ourselves, we have not already settled them, but they have already provided the money to the so on their side they have success, on our side we have already cancelled it, and those were initiating so many disputes. And there was also another case where, especially on the time, we also faced an issue where different systems have different time. Let's say it's not time zone because we're in the same country, actually time. So you might find like, let's say our system cycle closes, let's say at 1:59, 30 seconds or 12. And then maybe there are some transactions that are happening there. So because there was nothing like that is going to block some transaction and first close the previous cycle, so it was straight. So some of the transactions were being done in the participant side, it was today, but in our system, it was actually the next day. And then when we were matching documents, there were some mismatches, especially, and that was actually one of the causes of reconciliation. So that is also, those were two, unless you have to add.
Definitely the one that are caused because of the timeouts where one side is expecting the transaction to have been cancelled by the switch, while the other side has actually gone ahead and processed the transactions internally and not wait on the other PAC 002 that they're supposed to be getting, basically confirming that the switch has acknowledged the receipt of their fulfillment message or whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, usually I would say what a big percentage of those transactions are timeout related.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a couple of questions. The first one is just on how the framework works, because one of the biggest frustration around trying to get a dispute addressed is that the other party never responds. So other than, so I saw in your system that you also have places where the tickets or the dispute gets automatically closed. But are there other measures available to where if you have an institution that's never responding to disputes, then there is some recourse that happens to them? That's my first question. The second one is on this whole thing of reversal. So when we looked at this, we were extremely uncomfortable affecting any institution's position in terms of refunding. We just felt it was safer if you've accepted that this is a dispute and you should refund the money, just do it on your end. The reason for that is we figured would easily become a target for fraud because everybody would know, let's create reversals. And before you know it, there's a bunch of reversals that have been generated that are not bona fide. So I'm just questioning how you handle that to ensure that that is not abused. And my final comment, I think, is the question you put there. Yeah, I think there are cases where the end user should raise the dispute themselves. I think the first one that comes to mind is if I receive money and I know the money doesn't belong to me, how do I let the bank know or my institution know, just take this money back? Don't bother calling me, don't email me. I go to my bank channel and I tell them it's not mine, please return it. I think that would go a long way in making sure that the disputes go away a lot faster. I'm not sure now if Mojaloop supports what we call a refund API, because if somebody said, I don't want this money and I'm the one receiving it, then there should be a mechanism in which it goes back. Or I have another reason, maybe it was targeted to me and I don't want it. Maybe it's, there could be circumstances where you refuse to accept money because you don't want the money for whatever reason. So that's the only one I can think about there. But yeah, let me just stop there.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. So yeah, that's a very good example of a customer being able to initiate a dispute. But I think as well, that's something that they need to do at the DFSP level. So your bank, your mobile money provider needs to take that money out of your account and then deal with issuing the reversal separately to what happens to you. Yeah. So again, it's not a switch thing. It's actually the protocol the DFSP needs to take. And Elaine, the scenario you were mentioning as well, where people are, preemptively either accepting or clearing or canceling a transaction. I mean, that's really just, they haven't implemented the correct orchestration of the messages, right? So, I mean, that should be a transient thing that people might have happen once or twice, but they should be fixing, and it should be a good thing that we can test for. So, once, and also a normal thing to discover as you start off, right? So I'm just interested, you said you had lots of those kind of cases. Have you seen them fall off rapidly as people have addressed their implementation issues?
Yeah, so most of these requirements to build these dispute management and the reconciliation were emanating from the previous platform, right? That Austrich was running or is still running, right? So basically, it's kind of like preempting all the issues that they had on the previous platform as a cover, right, on the new platform, right? So up to today, I don't think we have any dispute issues raised, but at least those tools are there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Promise one question regarding the scope of the work stream and whether you have already considered or analyzed the workflow for dispute that contains multiple currencies and the one the dispute is managed or handled, right? That might be at a different exchange rate, and I'm wondering how the gain or loss exchange could be handled in that case, and whether you have studied that workflow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, maybe I can start by there. There's a question asking if there were some measures, especially for the institution who don't respond. So currently, how previously R-Switch was operating, there was no major, let's say, measures taken for institutions. They were calling them kindly. There was some disputes raised against you, kindly respond to them. But that's now where we started saying, okay, like, we're not going to give them any other chance of doing this. That's how we came up with this SLA and say, with a configurable number of days or hours agreed in an industry meeting, we are going to have some days, let's say 2. If a respondent didn't respond to the dispute, then they were going to get escalated, and that was done before there was some notifications. We send them notifications on a daily or even hourly, but then after those configured days, the dispute is automatically escalated to the scheme, and they are the one now going to be handling the case. Same thing when also the dispute management, the respondent has already responded, but the initiator is there busy doing other things. They're not saying if they are okay with the response or not. Then that's where exactly the auto closure idea came. That is something that is even in our operation rules, that is something that is going to be there. The days, hours are going to be agreed in an industry meeting, and then we agree this is going to be going like this. And everyone knows if the respondent declined and he didn't say anything, then you are the one who is going to incur the cost, not the respondent, because you had an option to escalate and you didn't. On the reversal, to avoid the people to abuse, especially that reversal, yes, you're right, because if you give people like the ability to say, okay, I can now reverse any transaction, like, or dispute, something like that, people will abuse that. So that is why on our side, initially, the step that we have done is that, because when someone raises a dispute, maybe like I redirected my 10K Rwandan francs on your account, the other bank, while they are doing actually the investigation, they hold the funds. Actually, even on the some operators actually even give away to hold the funds. It's like, for example, on MTN, if I do a mistake and I send you money while I wanted to send it to another person, I can actually through the phone request to hold that fund, and then they will do the investigation later. They can know it's true or not, and then they can release it. On our side, what we do is when the dispute is initiated, the other party hold the funds, they do investigation, and if they allow the refund, it means they have already done the investigation, they just approve the dispute, and the other party, they close it, and that's when we know that both parties have given us the consent, then we can go on and settle them, and they can actually even also send money to their beneficiaries. So that's how we have done it currently to avoid that abuse. So the option of returning money, I think they have, it has also been addressed. It's more on the participant side mostly, because if the participant give that or option of returning the money, I think it's a normal transfer that is going to be done back to where it came from. So for multiple currencies, it's actually a very good question, and that's also something that we have been even discussing in our work stream concerning the cross-border, and it's something that we are still also looking into it, because there was first of all currencies issue, because when we start now, at the time when we will start even implementing the cross-border, maybe the most dispute will be around currencies between like maybe maybe the charges or the rates that have been applied to my transaction are not fair, things like that, I don't know, but there will be so many. And also same with corresponding banks where we have different banks involved in it. So I think that is something that we're still looking into it. We have started by the version 1 where we have only 2 participants with same currency, and then we keep improving it. Yes, Richard.
Sorry, I just wanted really to build on what you were saying, Promise. And so the problem essentially is, as you know, we generate a new payment to do a refund now, and therefore a new currency conversion. And if currency conversion rates have moved between the time the original payment was made and the time the refund is made, then the question is, who is responsible, who is liable for that difference? Now, there are various ways in which you could manage that. You could say the creditor returns what they got, and that means the debtor might either get more or less than they sent, or you can say the other way around, the debtor has to get exactly what they sent, and the creditor might have to pay more or less as a consequence. Or you might say some third party needs to bear that liability. Now, that's not a matter for Mojaloop itself. It's a question that people who are implementing systems like DRPP will need to answer as part of their scheme rules, and they will need to get agreement as part of that with all of the jurisdictions which are going to be participating in this. But there is no easy way around that, because, I mean, effectively, all that will happen if you say to a currency converter, oh, and by the way, you need to be prepared to refund this at the same rate in 3 days' time, the currency converter is going to say, of course I will.
Yeah, you're right. And actually talking about the refund and everything, I think there's something that I didn't mention that is also very important, because on different markets, especially the dispute refund, when there's a refund due to a dispute, some also say, okay, now if there's a refund, also the charges, or I mean the fees, if there's maybe interchange fees, are also going to be refunded. Others say, no, things have happened, this is we are only refunding the total amounts. So this is also something that we can also look into and make it configurable, because it's also different due to different industries. Yeah.
Maybe to add on what Michael was talking about, I have witnessed a number of issues when you buy from like eBay something, or from Amazon, and then the seller changes their mind, and then they say they're refunding your money. Probably you bought it at $200 and you used a Uganda shillings account, and and it's so funny how the banks just steal our money without even thinking about the fact that you took my shillings and sold to me dollars expensively. Then on returning, I have to buy the dollar so that you give me my shillings. And I think this maybe in such instances is where options like a three currency model that Amila was talking about yesterday would work. Having a conversation around having a stable coin that helps in making sure that whatever value is transacted in the middle is the same. So I am able to get back my shillings as they are. Because even talking about the cost, banks never bring back that money. I have seen it with mobile money across different networks in different parts of the continent. Even when I send money and it doesn't go across the network, no one is refunding my cost. They're telling you the transaction failed, but what about my money that was used for the transaction? I mean, that's, yeah, yes, my, yeah, you need the microphone? I'll deliver it.
Thanks, Innocent. I was just going to go back to this morning's session and say that's why the number one thing to do in an instant payment system is try your very hardest to make sure there are no disputes about payments. That's a tough one. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. Think about that for a bit.
Yeah. I might say that I would be inclined to include agreement of terms in that situation. Michael, don't you think that'd be a good idea? So, yeah, and I think, yeah, it's obviously not a trivial problem, right? But at least, and I've had a similar experience recently where I had dollars and I wanted to get dollars, and this was in the UK, and all I had to do to get my dollars was convert them into pounds, which would then convert them into dollars, and then I could have my dollars. Oh yeah, it cost 150 pounds to get the dollars out. It was like 750 pounds, and I had to pay 150 pounds in the end to get my dollars out. Wasn't that cheap? I mean, it's the most I've ever had to pay, but anyway, a rate to us. But anyway, the thing about the algorithm we're applying in DRPP, though, is that there's only one leg of an exchange at any point which is relevant, right? Because of the way we've configured that. And it is a risk that could land all on the FXP. And to be fair, most probably will in the first instance, right? That you could have as a situation where you say, if we have to have a dispute, we will return you the number of shillings and the number of kwacha, because that's what we settled in, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to like that. So they're going to make sure that they have agreement of terms.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think you have to share the risk here, right? And you have to be grown-ups about it. We are trying to do a hard thing. It's better to do it right the first time rather than try and fix it afterwards. That's the whole ethos here. So I think it's promising.
Yeah.
There's a lot of incentive to do the right thing in this case.
Yeah. So thank you very much. You can see this is a very interesting conversation. I really want you to be part of the contributors, everyone, especially when it comes to building dispute, because you have different cases. You have DRPP who are doing cross-border and everyone. Yes, please.
So we're very keen to be able to experiment and explore this. So when will we be able to try this out for ourselves?
You mean the real one in Mojaloop?
Yeah.
So our goal is to have something done in this next PI. So
Awesome.
we have, yeah, that's the goal we have. Yes. So, but for that to become possible, we need, of course, ideas, different, as we are here, as a community, we have different use cases, cross-border, internal, different things, and also contributors on the project. As I have mentioned, where we are now, we are between saying, okay, is there any system that we can bring in as an open source? Can we build ours? Yes, please. Yeah, before I close.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that it's the whole ethos of merge loop. But yeah, it's of course, the moment you have something that you are building or you're working on in reality, bring it into the open source community means we can get many eyes, many hands
Yes.
to that pump. And then we all care deeply about this being a successful feature within the Mojo Loop ecosystem. So all of us who are interested in making real systems real would like to see this, and we'll be there to support you guys making it happen.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So thank you very much. We are actually closing. Can take 30 seconds and then we close. Yeah, they are coming in. for the
Thank
clo-
you,
Uh-huh.
Promise. And my question is based on the workflow you've just presented. Most of the responsibility lies on the DFSP. Maybe in my jurisdiction, for any reversal to happen, it has to be approved by the customer who received the funds erroneously, or I don't know. I know I'm going to be part of your work stream, but maybe I was thinking, have you thought through that what is the part the customers or the end users are going to play in the dispute resolution?
Yeah, so if I understand very well is okay. So first of all, the reason why you can see only participants are being involved in this is because, of course, those are actually our customers. Because when you're doing this switch business, it's actually a B2B. Those are the people that you are dealing with, and then we were also one of the questions that I was also asking ourselves is, can we have a way, maybe to provide a way that maybe P2P or like the normal customers can be able to raise disputes, things like that on the portal or something. But the problem is that we don't interact with them. So I think that is also something that you're going to see how we can do it as we close here. Thank you.
We'll discuss after.
Thank you very much for that, for your time.